say up, it frightens me sometimes just how long making a 10 or 15 minute video actually takes to make, especially when you're reviewing cleaning chemicals, because you need to use them multiple times, test them out in weather and see how they perform before you can make a video reviewing them. And this particular video has taken almost 6 months because I'm reviewing an easy to apply paint sealant. And I needed to apply it, test it out in all conditions to see how it performed before I could decide whether it was actually worth reviewing it or not. Because there's no point me telling you that it's great if it only takes a week for it to break down and wear off. I've got to ensure that it performs well and that it's long lived before I'm prepared to recommend it. And I would like to add that I've got no affiliation with the company that makes the products I'm going to show you today. I'm not getting any kickback from sales. I bought it with my own money last November from my local Halfords. And to be honest, I bought it in an attempt to solve a problem that some people have. I'm a firm believer in carnauba protective waxes. And I know that a lot of people just can't be bothered with wax. They want a quick, easy to apply product that doesn't take any more time or effort than general washing does. But either way, it is important that you use something to seal and protect your paintwork from the elements, because it will eventually, as we all know, start to deteriorate and then inevitably the rustworm takes hold. And using products like waxes and sealants, you can substantially slow that process down. Believe it or not, UV radiation from the sun is your paintwork's biggest enemy. It's also extremely destructive to waxes, polishes and sealants. A good quality carnauba wax will last up to a year in a garage. It can last all winter when you're getting very little sun. But in the summer, when temperatures rise and it's exposed to bright sunshine, that same paintwork protection may only last a month or 6 weeks. So it's probably more important that you keep on top of your paint protection regime during the summer months. I don't mean that you should completely neglect them in winter, but you should definitely be carrying out some sort of regime more frequently during the summer. And I would recommend at least monthly. Now, the sealant in question is Glym's Polar Seal, and I need to tell you a couple of things first. First of all, it can only be applied using a pressure washer snow foamer attachment. I have tried mixing it up and applying it with a spray bottle, and that doesn't work. It will only work with a pressure washer snow foamer. Now, the second thing that I need to mention is that on the instructions on the back, Glym do not recommend it for use with motorcycles. Now, Glym are hard work. I rang them several times last November to try and find out why they don't recommend it for motorcycles. Now, it took some time, but the answer that I was finally given is that there was some concern that it may make motorcycle seats a bit slippery. So my answer to that is either remove your seat before using it or cover it over with a plastic bag. Problem sorted. And I should also remind you, because I have been through this several times in the past, you should always clean your brake discs with a brake cleaner or something like U-Pol pre-paint wipe to ensure that there's no chemical residue on your discs that may inhibit use of your brakes. Right, let's get on. Now, just for you, in order to make this review as realistic as possible, I've been neglecting my car in the way that I normally maintain the exterior paintwork. Last November, I completely removed all wax from the bodywork and substituted my carnauba wax regime with this Polar Seal to see how it fared. And I've got to say, I'm actually pretty impressed with it. In winter, even with heavy rain and heavy frosts, it will last about 2 to 3 months. It can be applied over waxes, and you can apply waxes over it. And although it does work extremely well, Glym do point out that it shouldn't be considered a replacement for wax. But the way my logic works is that for those people that don't like waxing the bikes and don't wax them, this is better than nothing. Now, I purposely hadn't washed or touched my car since the end of January because I wanted to show you the full effect of how this stuff works. And this last 3 weeks or month we've had some pretty nice warm sunny weather, which has finally killed the last application of Polar Seal off. What I'm about to show you is just a general sort of washing regime that most people carry out. I used Bilthamber Auto Wash, which is a really good, really effective car shampoo that doesn't contain any waxes. It doesn't leave any form of hydrophobic coat on the car after you've used it. And I filmed everything in sequence so that you can see that. Now, just to preempt any comments in the comments section, I'm sure a lot of you would have preferred to see me carrying out this procedure on a motorcycle. But obviously, I'm filming my bikes throughout the winter all the time. They're regularly going through little valet sessions and waxing sessions to keep them looking good for the camera. And with the best will in the world, I'm not sticking one of my bikes outside all winter just to make a video like this. My car isn't garaged. Automotive paint is automotive paint, whether it's on a motorcycle or a car. It's also easier to film and show the results on car paintwork. Now, as you saw earlier on, the car was covered in sort of 2.5 months worth of traffic film. So the first job basically is to wet it down to loosen up any large particles of dirt and allow that to soak into dirt so that it's easier to remove at the shampooing stage without causing any damage to the paintwork. As you can see, even after 2.5 months, on some of the vertical surfaces it is still beading up a little bit, but on the flat horizontal surfaces the water is clinging to the paintwork. There's no doubt that the traffic film will be partly responsible for this, and although the last application of this sealant hasn't completely gone, it's no longer working efficiently. I allowed the water to soak in for a few minutes, being careful not to allow it to dry, obviously, and then got onto the shampooing stage. On the day of filming, it was the warmest day that we'd had so far, so I used cold water mixed with the recommended amount of Bilthamber Auto Wash. As I say, this is a non-wax bodywork shampoo. I didn't want to muddy the waters by using a wash and wax. Now, ordinarily you wouldn't have to do this on a motorcycle, you can get around it fairly quickly, but with a car I tend to do a panel at a time and then rinse it off, otherwise there is a danger of the shampoo solution drying onto the bodywork and then you've got to re-wet it before you can rinse it off. Now, I'm sorry that some people might find this a little bit boring. Please try to refrain from leaving that kind of comment in the comment section. It takes up a lot of my time. But it was important to me that I showed you the full process so that you can see that there's no jiggery-pokery going on my part. Once the car had been thoroughly shampooed and cleaned, I just rinsed it off with a hose pipe. And obviously, with the aid of gravity, the water is running off, but as you can see, it's still sheeting on the paintwork, especially on the horizontal surfaces. There were one or two areas, even after 2.5 months, where the protectant was still clinging onto the bodywork, but I would say that at least 80% of it by now has completely gone. That's after 2.5 months, a month of which has been fairly warm, sunny weather. So what you have at this stage is wet but clean and contaminant-free paintwork that at this stage has no protection against the weather. The sealant has to be applied to the paintwork while the paintwork is still wet. And Glym recommend that you use 40 millilitres of the neat sealant mixed with a minimum of 200 millilitres of water. How I usually mix it, having got a bit of experience with it now, is about 900 millilitres of water to 80 millilitres of the Polar Seal concentrate. Now this is enough to do 2 cars, so reduce those amounts accordingly for a motorcycle. I would say for your average bike about 20 millilitres of the concentrate to 200 millilitres of water should be enough. And as you can see here, I just used an old thoroughly rinsed out wash off bottle that fits onto my muck off snow foamer. And I turned the snow foamer down to its minimum setting. There really is no need to use huge amounts of this stuff. Now, reading through the product information on their MSDS sheets, Glym divulge that this substance uses silicons, but when I looked into it further, it's silicons in the form of hard polymers. Now, just about all wash and wax shampoos use this in small amounts. And in fact, most wax polishers use these polymers in order to give a good hard finish that is durable. And I've got to say, Glym have got this exactly right. I've tried a lot of these products in the past. I've not been particularly impressed with them. Personally, I believe that any product like this should last a month minimum, and most of them are exhausted in a week. But as you can see here, the minute it touches the paintwork, it forms a hard, hydrophobic layer which chases water off immediately. Now, of course, the beauty of this kind of application where a motorcycle is concerned is that this stuff will get into all the nooks and crannies on your frame, under your tank, everywhere, adding a layer of protection from the elements that you really can't achieve with a standard wax polish. And the beauty is, it's very tenacious, it's long lasting, and you will get, at the very least during the summer months, a month between applications. Now, I know a lot of you that watch my videos own cars as well, so I should point out that Glym recommend that you don't get it on your glass. Now, this only really matters with your front windscreen. I wouldn't worry about your rear windscreen unless it has wash wipers fitted, or your side windows, and that's simply because in the first couple of showers that you might encounter, your windscreens will smear when you put your windscreen wipers on. To be honest, it's not a biggie, it doesn't last long, but if you want to be cautious, I would recommend that you clean your front windscreen with a decent quality glass cleaner once you've got the car dried off. Once you've coated all the relevant surfaces that you want to treat, you then simply rinse it off with a hose pipe or something similar. And I've got to admit, the first time I used it, I was astounded. Once you've rinsed it off, just dry it off in the normal manner. What I usually do is get one of my car dryers out, just blow off the worst of the water, because this stuff does make the water bead up aggressively, especially on your roof. And I do that so that my drying cloth isn't sodden after the first panel and I can get around the whole car with it. Now, this Polar Seal doesn't just make your car sort of waterproof, it really does leave a gorgeous deep wet look shine, which again lasts for at very least a month. I've had up to 3 months out of it. It genuinely looks as good as a high quality wax when you've finished. These sort of products are nothing new. They've been around since at least the 1990s that I'm aware of. As I've said, the big drawback has always been that a couple of showers and the product's gone. It's the longevity of this Polar Seal that's made it stand out to me. Now, as I said, I bought this from my local Halfords, but I will try my best to find a link to Amazon or something like that. And I'll leave a link if I can for the Built Hamber shampoo as well for those that might be interested. I've got to admit, this isn't the kind of product that I would have gone to if it wasn't for requests from viewers. Glym used to be a really big name in the trade, certainly back in the 80s and 90s. But after that, they sort of moved away from the trade and started sort of concentrating on the retail market. And as a result, a lot of the products were watered down to the point where, to me, they were useless. They're not a company that I regarded as relevant anymore. I still like the bumper gel and I've continued using that. And this Polar Seal, I've got to say, is an outright winner. Once again, thank you so much for watching this and my other videos, and in doing so helping to support this channel. I really do appreciate it. I would also appreciate it if you would consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. And if you do subscribe, don't forget to hit the notification bell and ensure that your notifications are enabled. That way you will be assured of receiving a notification whenever I upload a new video. I am, of course, going to be back on Friday, so until then, if you're riding, please ride safely, and I'll see you soon.